You are now listening to EmpireExtreme.com.
This is Ron with Empire Extreme, hanging out with Lizzy Borden. How you doing, man?
I am doing really good. You know, we've been looking forward to playing this festival for a long time, and now to be done with it, you know, and having, you know, the band come together the way it did, and we had a good chemistry with the new guys. It was really fun, even though we had some ear monitor problems. I had such a good time, and it seemed like the audience had a great time too. I'm excited to have done it, and I'm excited that it's over.
Yeah, it's crazy that just to think that you haven't played M3 yet, like.
Yeah.
And then we were just talking about it too, like M3, you know, needs to have a lot more of like bands like yourself, that theatrical, that puts on a show.
Yeah.
That's not just about the music and going out.
Right.
I love that. That's my favorite part of music. Is
Yeah.
like, you know, like we were talking about, you know, the Rob Zombies, the Alice Coopers, the stuff like that. I love it. I love the theatricals and going out and entertaining.
This show is the My Midnight Things show that got cut short from the virus.
Yeah.
So we were in full swing. You know, we just walked off the Monsters of Rock cruise, ready to book Europe, and we didn't, because that was the next move, because we had done the States and most of the States, and we had done Canada, and it was massively successful. So the next move was Europe, and so as soon as we got off the boat in January, we were planning for summer of 2020 in Europe, and then the virus hit, and so it's been 2.5 years, and tonight was the first night in 2.5 years, which was really just freaks me out that it's been 2.5 years.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It just went by like that, you know.
So how cool is it to have someone like Chris Jericho, who's huge in the WWE and AEW, always talking about Lizzy Borden? Like, he's like the biggest Lizzy Borden fan. And I mean, every time you see him anywhere, we're always wearing our Lizzy Borden shirts, and he's always like, Lizzy Borden, I just talked to him.
Yeah, he's become a good friend of mine, you know, which I you know, didn't intend on, you know.
Yeah.
But when he goes to Vegas, you know, we're always, you know, hanging out. We go see Fozzy, and you know, he's become a friend, which is something I didn't expect, because my nephews used to have his dolls as collections, you know. So I'd see them on the wall, and then one day someone sent me a thing that they asked Chris what was his best memory from high school, and he said sitting with his girlfriend listening to Love You to Pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you know. So he's become a friend of mine, and we text all the time, and he's out and about. He's doing really well with Fozzy. I've seen him go from here to massive with that band, and you know, I congratulate him. He's done amazing things.
Yeah, we covered him when he came around. Yeah. It freaking puts on such an awesome show, too.
Yeah, he's great. He knows entertainment, of course. Yep. And you know, his band's great, and they write some good singles.
Yeah. So. And how was it like working with Tom McFarlane? Because I know he did the cover of your guys' album.
Yeah, that was you know, at one point in the 80s, I could do anything I wanted, you know, because we had the power. So, like for the Master of Disguise record, I was looking for a director for one of our videos. This 19-year-old kid sent a thing in, and I'm like, this guy's ridiculous. He's so good. I said, you got the job. And his name was Zack Snyder. Yeah. And he ended up doing all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, he's freaking huge.
I gave him his first paying gig, him and his wife, because she was a producer on it. And they did a great job on our video. And so fast forward, in fact, even on the Master of Disguise record, we were going to get Ace Frehley to play, and he's one of my heroes. Yeah. And we just called him up, and he said, sure, I'll play on it, but he wanted an arm and a leg, and our budget was he wanted more than our budget for the whole album to play on it. So unfortunately we couldn't get him. But when I went to do the Deal with the Devil record, I said, you know, I want Todd McFarlane. And so we called him up. Yeah. Would you do the cover? Sure. He had a reasonable price, and he sent like 5 sketches. And they're really crazy, rough sketches, and I still have them. And I picked the one, and then I made some suggestions. And, you know, we talked on the phone, and he put in the suggestions, and then when we agreed on it, he colored it in and made it happen, and it was really amazing, especially even the contract and all of that.
Yeah.
It was part of the whole concept of that album. So it was great that he took input from me, and he's an amazing,
Oh yeah.
creator.
That dude's stuff is
But
disgusting.
he was happy to take my input
Yeah.
and wanted to give us what I wanted, and that cover is kind of iconic.
Yeah. So you were talking a little bit before the other interview, but we're talking about like favorite tours. Other than like you were saying about the newest tour, what about an older school tour? What was your favorite tour that you've done throughout the past?
Well, each one of them was special in a different way.
Yeah.
Love You Pieces was special because we had my dad's motorhome, and we had like 11 guys in the back, and we toured. We got out of California for the first time in our lives, playing Detroit and L'Amour's in Brooklyn, and playing all these places that would later become iconic.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. We didn't even know anything. We never even had been back east, so we were sleeping on the floor in the promoters' houses, and it was just crazy. But in the Menace to Society tour, Motorhead took us out.
Yeah.
And that was just an amazing tour to go out with them on the Orgasmatron tour. To me, it was just a learning experience because we didn't know anything. And, Lemmy kind of took us under his wing.
Yeah.
And he was the one who wanted us on the tour. Because I think William Morris was their agent, and it was our agent. And he said, "This is a great pair, let's do this." And they asked Lemmy, he goes, "Yeah, I want them."
Oh yeah.
And every night he helped us through everything. And we sat and just like a bunch of kids just listening to him tell us how to do this. This is how you do this.
Yeah.
Don't do that and don't do this. And we were in school, and Lemmy was the teacher. So, and then Visualize was amazing because both Visualize and Master Skies, they made our stage show in a place where Kiss was making their stage. They were making their Kiss stage show here and our stage show here.
Oh, nice.
Like 50 feet apart. So I'm a 15-year-old kid walking going, they're making Kiss's stage show here and my stage show there. Who would ever thought? It was insane. And we had the giant TVs on the Visualize, and we'd jump out of them. Took it to Japan, and our first festival at the time was the Reading Festival. It was like 80,000 people, and it was just, there was a lot of firsts in the 80s for us, and every one of those things were learning experiences for us. And then we went on the Master of Skies tour for the longest tour we've ever done, I think, and that was like 3.5 years. Yeah. And we toured all over the world. We did Europe a few times, and did America over and over and over. We just keep lapping America, and it was, it was, and we had a great lineup at that time with Alex and Corey. Yeah. And the memories we had on that were just, we had fun. Mm-hmm. It was actually the first time because we had a lineup that actually liked each other, and that you can't really say that in the earlier days. Yeah. We were just kind of business partners. But in the Master of Skies lineup, we actually loved each other, and we had a great time. When we weren't doing what we were doing, we were hanging out with each other. So that's a great memory. Yeah. Deal with the Devil was the turning of everything because it was 2000. And, you go out there and we were like, okay, the 80s are long gone. The 90s are long gone. Where are we now? And that was we went out with Yngwie, which turned out to be it was a mistake because of the band, but the fact that we got the response we did every night, we got an amazing response every night. So I couldn't complain because his audience loved us, and so every night it was great, but the combination didn't really work because it just didn't work, Yeah. And it ended prematurely. It was supposed to be like 45 shows, and it ended up to be like, 25, 27 shows, So, because they got in a big brawl backstage, and they called the police, and then everybody got fired, so that was it. And then Appointment with Death was another one. We went out, and it was new. We went out with Wasp. Yeah. And that was fun. We actually had a great time. And again, the audiences were amazing. That was a bill that fit. And it's weird because I never even met Blackie on
Yeah.
the whole tour. It was just we went on and then they went on, and the bands meshed so well that the audience loved both bands. It wasn't one-sided. It was a big thing. So it was one of those albums that was caught between time zones, and it was weird. People still don't even know it exists.
Yeah.
And when they discover it, they go, wow, And then, like, I said, the My Midnight Things is probably, in my memory, the most successful tour because of just the sheer numbers of people that we had played with. We had great shows early on with Megadeth and Slayer and a lot of big bands, one-offs. We played Texas in front of 6,000 people, and then we play here and we play there. Some of those shows became iconic to this day.
Yeah.
Because they were standalone shows. We were touring one way and they were touring the other way, and then a promoter would say, "You guys are going to be in the same area. Let's put it together." It was so easy to do back then.
Yeah.
So they, Megadeth, and then one day we'd be playing with the glam bands with Slaughter and whoever, and the next minute we're playing with Megadeth, and we were one of those bands that could cross over and play with anybody.
Yeah.
And so every promoter was like, "Yeah, drive 300 miles. Let's go. Let's do this." Can't do that now. You got to book your tour a year in advance.
Yeah.
But back then you could easily do it on
yeah.
a 2-day notice, 3-day notice.
Yeah.
And the people would show up. Every one of those shows that happened like that were sold out.
Oh, yeah.
Inside of, anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 seaters,
Another question I always ask, which is a hard question, it's like picking children, but if you had to put one of your songs in a time capsule and like hundreds of years later civilization finds it, what song would you want them to hear from Lizzy Borden?
To me, I think the most meaningful song that I've ever written is Long May They Haunt Us. But Me Against the World is the biggest impact. And oddly enough, if you look at our Spotify numbers, Me Against the World's number 1, Long May They Haunt Us is 2, and My Midnight Things is 3. And then the whole back catalog.
Yeah.
So, it's not a coincidence that these songs mean something.
Yeah.
It meant something to me while I was writing them, and it's kind of clicked over to, people that have discovered them.
Yeah.
But Me Against the World is probably the one I would put because it's had such longevity. I mean, I wrote that in 1987, and it's still, still one of our biggest live songs, And some of the other songs that were huge, they don't get the reaction, so I toss them out. Me Against the World's always got that reaction. So, but it would be between those two songs, I think.
Oh, yeah. And then, obviously with the, the theatrics and the horror realm, the other side of it, do you have a favorite horror movie, other than like the big ones that everybody said, like maybe like a more obscure horror film that you really enjoy?
It's so funny because in the early 80s, that was my biggest influence.
Yeah.
It's, because, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Jasons, and all those movies came out around that same time. Horror had a resurgence.
Yeah.
And that had a direct effect on me, not only me, but probably all the other people that were doing it. So I directly put those things into my lyrics and those kind of feelings but like I said, the early days with Dr. Butcher and all of that, I think are great memories because it was all of these bands that had just put out an EP or something and they weren't anything. Even Metallica at the time no one was worth anything.
Yeah.
But we all wore leather jackets and we were all into the same thing. But oddly enough and coolly, every band sounded different than each other.
Yeah.
We did not sound like each other. None of us did. And I thought that was cool because my influences were all the glam and glitter rock bands from the 70s. Cross that with Judas Priest. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because, I love, everything that came out of London in the mid 70s. And, of course, Kiss and that scene, the glitter rock scene in New York, and the glitter rock scene in Hollywood, with Quiet Riot, the early version, and all of that. And you mix that with metal, and you kind of that's what I do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time, man. Like, it's like I said, you guys freaking killed it on the stage. It was like
Thank you.
probably I would put that as like a top 5 probably best performance I've seen at M3 ever.
Oh,
Just because
wow.
like I said, they need more
Oh,